How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. How many of you don't just react, for an incident like this? Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts.
This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook, YouTube, I put YouTube second, and Twitter. Even though we don't get anything on YouTube hardly at all, but God bless you all. Turn this music down a little bit, and some interesting things in the news. You know, as I always do, I try to pick out the things that the news is talking about, the headlines, but not exactly the way the headlines are being covered by the media. So we're going to talk about this Jerusalem decision, or the decision to move our embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, and discuss whether or not it's really a big deal. I tried to get a few people on here tonight, but it's a hard night to get guests. So we'll talk about that as much as I can. The DNC, the more I find about how they handle these sexual predators, the sicker it is. I'm not saying the Republican Party doesn't do the same, but this is the evidence that I have right now. And Times Person of the Year, It's a joke. It's a political joke. And I'll tell you who I think should have been Times Person of the Year. We'll discuss all that and some more. Let's get it started. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. Yeah, of course he wanted to come up here and say hello. He's pestering me down there. Stand up straight when you're up here. Stand up straight, boy. That's right. So, yeah, he's doing good. He's been by my side this whole time. A little whiny, but that's okay. He can do that. He's 16, or 16's 18. 17 and a half, actually, to be exact. But he's getting up there to close to 18. So, anyway, let's start off talking about, well, real quick, since we got a bunch of people watching right now, and that's good. Let's stick to would you sit up straight? I'm going to shake you like crazy. Make sure that you remember the GoFundMe page, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. It helps me. Of course, everybody knows this. It's donated to it before. We've had a lot of people donate to it. But it helps me keep this show going. And as I get out on the road here pretty soon, especially if I'm on a book tour, which hopefully starts in January or February, hopefully what will happen is this money that comes into the GoFundMe account will help me be able to not just go and give speeches for my book, but actually, as I'm on the road, be able to give some free speeches to groups that can't afford to pay. And so, again, gofund.me/ there it is right there on the bottom of the screen. That'll come up here in just a second. gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. You ever notice that he's got a goatee? Look at his face. He's got a goatee just like me. Look at that. He's always had that. Now, the other thing, if you haven't, let me put him down. It's hard to deal with him and this leg at the same time. Whoa. Hold on a second. Take a dive. All right. He's okay. He's okay. Took a little dive there. So, let's see if you can see that on the replay. It just went. So, make sure that you are sharing this on Facebook, that you're retweeting it on Twitter, and that if you haven't subscribed to my page on YouTube, that you go do that. Don't just say you'll do it. Go do it right now. And these numbers count, because especially on Facebook, as I've talked about before, we get out there. I mean, at one point, this show was getting 1 million people reached a night, 1 million different Facebook pages. But it's almost as if once they realize that, they just shut it down. And now, I mean, there's nights where I get like 3,000 people that the show reaches, which makes no sense at all because I haven't changed a single thing. My numbers are higher. Viewers per night are higher. So who knows the real motivation behind that. But also, I'm finding out now that people are getting notified that they're going to get the book, Sheep No More. It's not going to just be shipped on the 12th. But people are actually going to get the book on the 12th. So don't forget, you can go to Amazon.com and look up Sheep No More. Make sure it's the one there's two of them. One's from Europe. It's about, I don't know, it's about globalism or something. But this is the one that's got my face on it, that Barry Morgenstein took these pictures. And I came up with this idea for the cover. And it explains it a little bit. That's actually on the Amazon page. But this shows all the different, some of the different, not all of them, the different areas of the federal government that I've worked, the SEALs. I went through Ranger School in the FBI, Air Marshal badge. I didn't have room to fit it on there. But go get it. Right now, I think it's about $12. And it'll make a great Christmas gift. Everybody needs to read this. Again, if you haven't seen this and you're just now tuning in for the first time, it's a book. Basically, this is the way it's laid out. I'll give you a little bit about how it's laid out. The first part is about the attacker mindset. The second part is about how you target yourself using that mindset. And then the third part is about how you defend yourself, the mistakes that are made in defending a person. And then the last part of the book is all about escape, evade, not run and hide. It's about escape and evade and fight if you have to fight. And then it also talks about fear. There's several case studies in there of people that I've taught this to, and then a final prediction of what of a terrorist incident that I believe is going to occur. So it's not just a book that you read and you put down. It's a book that you incorporate in your life. And as you can see, the way it's laid out here is it's laid out in a way that once you get into the meat of the book, it actually shows you how to dissect your life into sectors and look at the different aspects of your life so you can actually determine the critical areas. First of all, the critical assets, the critical areas, the critical times, the vulnerabilities that can be exploited, and the attacker's avenues of approach for each sector of your life. So, you know, if you don't want to be sexually harassed at work, this will help you identify not only who or what the behaviors are so you can identify who the people are, it's also going to help you identify the areas where they're most likely going to approach you, the times when they're most likely going to approach you, and how you can build up defenses or mitigate that circumstance so that you don't have to even worry about that. You know, avoid those areas altogether. So it doesn't just work to trying to get away from terrorist attacks. Criminal attacks, violent attacks. If you live in an apartment by yourself, it talks, you know, this will help you design a way to get in and out of your apartment in a safer manner, especially late at night. If you're by yourself coming home and maybe you had some drinks or whatever, this will help you develop standard operating procedures for your life. There's never been a book like it. Never. You can look all you want. There's never been a book like this that literally teaches you how a bad person, an attacker, fixates on a target and designs a target package that leads to the actual attack plan. That is what I'm teaching you, but so that you can understand it and then mitigate the whole thing. Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. It's exactly what it says, the art of awareness and attack survival. Let me get my coffee cup out of the way here. Also, for all you naturalists out there and people have been trying to give me home remedies, yes, I'm drinking bone broth from my boiled chicken thighs that Rico and I eat every night. And so that's helping me out quite a bit as well. So I think we got all the ad stuff out of the way. Make sure, listen, I'm not just pumping this stuff up because I wrote the book. I wrote the book. I waited to write this book. I could have written this book in 2004, to tell you the truth. But I waited to learn more. I wanted to learn more and more. And I wanted to make sure that I was fully aware of not just what my skill set is, but the typical civilian. And so how I could communicate this properly with the civilians. Being in the FBI truly helped that out. And so with the way things are going and the way that politics have just continuously striven to make people more dependent, not empowered, I thought it was time for me to step up, write the book, and empower people so that they can realize they're the protectors of their own homeland. So that's why I came up with it the way I did. By the way, I'm going to give you a little quick preview of tomorrow's announcer. I'm going to have a special announcer for the Friday night. No, that's going to be on Friday, but it's Wednesday. It's Hump Day, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a little taste of this. It's going to be Debbie Wasserman Schultz is going to be announcing the Friday Night Toast. Let's go ahead and give her a little look here.
Hello, my name is Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and I've approved the Friday Night Toast.
Okay.
Enjoy.
All right, that's enough scary stuff. So anyway, she's going to be announcing the Friday Night Toast, so then to tell you that you should tune into it, okay? And we'll have other special guests along the way. So let's get straight to it, okay? Let's actually, you know what? Let's just break this up a little bit. We'll go to the A block, and we'll start talking about Trump and the Jerusalem decision. Let's do it. Man, I'll tell you what. One last thing. When you have a major injury like I have with this leg, and you go through major surgery and they cut up a bunch of stuff, anybody that's had this surgery will tell you, I never knew this until now, but when your body is repairing itself, it puts off a tremendous amount of heat. And so this leg, I'm telling you, it causes me to sweat. The other night I woke up, it felt like my sweat glands were just spitting out sweat. And the leg in itself, you can touch it sometimes as hot as can be. And then it'll just go away. Then I'll be nice and cool. very interesting process. I'm really keeping close watch on how to deal with pain and this type of suffering, so that I can share this with people that might be might have an accident or might have a surgery coming up. So if you have questions, stuff, you can reach out to me. And sorry about my relaxed composure here, but I have to have my leg up. So I finally figured out a way that I can stand this for more than 30 minutes out here. Now, the Trump and Jerusalem decision. Let me just say this about this decision. I know I talked to my friend Nina. She's a Muslim. You know, you may have heard us on Sirius XM before. She funny, one of the funniest people I know, but very proud Palestinian, and she, or supporter of the Palestinians. I don't know if she's actually Palestinian. She is adamant that this is a slap in the face of Palestinian people, and I get it. I understand it. The Palestinians consider Jerusalem as their capital, while the Israelis consider Jerusalem their capital. President Trump today followed through on a promise that's been made by many, many presidents, not just President Trump. And in fact, when he signed, I was just listening to this earlier today, when he signed an agreement to extend the embassy in Tel Aviv, I believe is where it's at. Wait, is that right? No, not Tel Aviv. Is that right? The embassy is not in Jerusalem right now. I can't remember where it's at. It might be Tel Aviv. But it was met with stark criticism that people were like ticked off because he signed that agreement to extend its stay there. And so now when he does this, many of the same people are criticizing him as well. But here's what I find. Let's set the Palestinian issue to the side for a second, okay? What I find most interesting, because, I mean, listen, let's just be honest about this. The Palestinians are not going to be happy no matter what, because I don't know how to say this in a politically correct way, so I'm just going to say it. You can argue back and forth about who is historically has the rights to that land. You can go back and forth, okay? Biblically, when you look at the Bible, I believe that the Israelis do. You can look at what the Palestinians say and how they trace it back, and they say that they do. Ultimately, here's two things you got to realize about the Middle East. In the Middle East, they still, in a large, they've grown towards political correctness and rules of war and engagement like the rest of the world. But by and large, in the Middle East, to the victor goes the spoils. That's the way it was since the beginning of man, and that's still the way it is in Israel. Okay, that's the facts. And the fact is, Israel came in 1946, I believe it was. They came in. It took a few years, but they came in, and they took what they felt was rightfully theirs, that was promised to them by God, and they won it in war, and they've never been pushed out of there. And so to the victor goes the spoils. That's the way it goes. Israel will own and occupy that land until a bigger, badder force comes in and takes it from them. We live under an age. Let's be adults in this whole situation and realize we can say that that's not right to say that's, you know, that is sounds like something about war crimes and about genocide and this and that. Well, you know, here, look, this is the deal. Even genocide, what happened to the Armenians in Turkey 116 years ago, is not something that has never happened before in war. Okay, genocide has happened again since mankind started. Whether it was a tribe, a city, or a country, one person feels that they're due that, they come in and they either kill everybody or they kill enough people where they take slaves of the rest of the people, and so on and so forth. That's the way it's always been. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's just. But the rules of war, no matter how we like to paint it up and make it look sophisticated and fair and just in the world court, it's war. It's war. And ultimately what's going to happen is, if you're stronger, you're going to get what you want, period. And if you feel you're entitled to this and you go to war and you're stronger, you're going to get what you feel you're entitled to. Same thing with the other side. And in the 1940s, when Israel decided to go back, that's what happened. They went in, they fought, they won their land back, according to Israel, and they are the occupiers of Jerusalem, and they are the occupiers of Israel in that territory. I know there's going to be people that say that's not correct, and that you're basically saying that that warfare should have no rules and regulations. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is it doesn't matter if you put rules and regulations on war. War is still war, and it's only going to be governed ultimately by who's stronger. That's it. I don't care how you slice it. I don't care what war crimes courts that you put up there. It ultimately comes down to who's stronger, and ultimately who wins the battle. It's very similar in law enforcement when you look at, like, they say not occupation, but the word when you have something that somebody's suing you for, like custody in the case of children, when you have those children, that is 2/3 of the law, I think is how they say that. I'm just looking at my dog over here. Okay, he's eating. He's so old, sometimes he makes weird movements and I only see half of his body. So anyway, isn't it weird how in this show I'll be talking about Israel and the Middle East and all this warfare, and I look over and there's my dog over there, and my immediate attention goes over to the dog. Okay, so he's okay. So this is a reality, folks. And I've talked about this before. You could go to Las Vegas and you can look at something, like, I guarantee if you go to Greece and you look at something that looks like marble and you punch it, you're going to break your hand because that's marble. You go to Las Vegas and you look at something that looks like marble and you punch it, your hand may very well go through it, because Las Vegas is made up of fake stuff. It's really fake. They got a fake small New York City. They got a fake pyramid. They got, it's reproductions of stuff. So warfare, and the way that we have painted it up to look as though nothing is ever, it's always going to be governed by laws and politics and people will play along. Look, that's bullcrap. It's absolutely nonsense. The fact is, warfare is the ultimate low for the human species. It's even lower, or it's on par, if not lower, though, than when two human beings get together and disagree on something, they end up killing one another, or one person kills the other. When you go to war, basically what we're saying is that there is absolute no way that we can sit down and work things out. And ultimately, when you go to war, innocent people are going to die, because ultimately when you go to war, it's not being waged by the civilians. It's being waged by a very few group of people on both sides that are making the decisions to put people's lives at stake. I would have a feeling if the majority of Jews and Palestinians sat down, they could probably come up with some conclusion as to what's fair and what's not. But the problem is in Israel, and I keep hearing this with all these different lawmakers from all around the globe, saying that this is going to be a real shot in the arm for peace in the Middle East. Well, surprise, surprise, there's never been peace in the Middle East. Even before the Jews came back to Israel, it's a warrior segment of the globe. They're built on conquering. So one group conquers another, and then another group conquers them, and then maybe they go back and conquer the other group. And it's a region of the world that is built on conquest and conquering. And whoever is the strongest is the rule in the Middle East. That's the way it has been since the beginning. And it's interesting because when we look at the Bible and they talk about the Garden of Eden and how God cast Adam and Eve out of it, it makes sense that land was spoiled and has been tarnished ever since, and there's been fighting ever since. It makes sense to me anyway. So moving our embassy to Jerusalem didn't even put a dent in the reality of war in the Middle East. Not at all. We could have moved our embassy a mile offshore into the ocean, and it's not going to make a difference. The war and the warfare that is continuously raging in the Middle East, especially with Israel and the Arabs, has to do solely This dog is stuck behind nothing. Has to do with... There you go. He knocked my crutches down. So the war in the Middle East has to do basically with a very similar thing to what I just explained a second ago. Way to go. So it has to do with who is the strongest. And I can guarantee you, like Israel or Iran, for instance, if they get nuclear weapons, the chances are there's going to be a buildup along the Israeli border, and that will become bigger and bigger, and that problem will grow. You're not going to solve it, and it's not going to be made any worse by putting our embassy where Israel says that that is their capital. So I don't buy into this whole nonsense of these politicians making a big deal about it, but especially the Democrats, CNN, and all these people just jumping on the bandwagon because Trump's the one who actually had the cojones to go out there and make the decision to do this. The fact is, and this is the reality of this whole thing, and you can hold me to this, the decision that was made by President Trump to move the embassy, the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem isn't going to make a difference at all. Not going to make a difference in the ultimate picture, the overall picture of peace in the Middle East. There is no such thing as peace in the Middle East, and there will never be peace in the Middle East until Jesus the Christ himself comes back, or Satan reveals himself and mysteriously, or if I should say mysteriously, but falsely convinces everybody to have peace because they'll think he's God because they're godless. So that's the reality. Mankind is not going to step into the Middle East and cure anything. Jared Kushner is not going to fix anything. President Trump is not going to fix this. Netanyahu is not going to fix this. Nobody. They're not going to fix it. The Middle East is going to continuously be at war. Look, Muhammad, in my opinion, this is my opinion, Muhammad specifically chose Jerusalem as, or he was told by whatever thing was that told him, this is where you will ascend to heaven or whatever. He chose that specific place because that was already where David had built his palace and where Jesus had gone in and where Jesus was crucified. He specifically chose that area because of exactly what I've been describing over the past few minutes, is that the Middle East and the Islamic religion is built on conquest and conquering. And when Islam started in 1400 something years ago, and Muhammad was going through the Middle East on a conquest and conquering, he specifically chose, I believe, and targeted Jerusalem because it was the center of religion then, as it is the center of religion now, of Judaism and Christianity. And there's no better way than to secrete yourself right in the middle of it. There's no better way to control it or to throw a rock in the middle of that whole pond than to just go jump right in the middle of it. And that's what he did. He put it right there, the seed of Islam, right there in Jerusalem. Right on the Temple Mount. I don't know why people find this so difficult to see from a tactical perspective, that what Muhammad did was more tactical than it was religious. So anyway, that's not really what I wanted to talk about too much here, but you can't really talk about one without talking about the other. There's not going to be any solution to the Middle East issue unless somebody comes up with some kind of super weapon that holds everybody at bay. And even then, because we got so many traitors in the United States government and all around the world and other governments, you know, you can only keep a secret for so long. Unless you're somebody like, some genius who comes up with weaponry, and you're also a holy person, and you come up with this magical piece of equipment, then you say, if you don't start doing what I tell you, I'm going to destroy you, and you're not going to wage war because I'm more powerful. Then maybe you could make a difference, but no one person is going to solve that whole problem. And that's the stuff of movies, what I just talked about there. That's not reality. So that's the truth here. No matter what you hear on television tonight, no matter what anybody says, the Trump Jerusalem decision to put our embassy in Jerusalem It's not a slap in the face of the Palestinians. Israel is the owner of that land. Whether or not they're the rightful heirs of it is never going to be. You're never going to get the Palestinians to agree on that or the Muslims to agree on that. Israel owns it. They conquered it. They claimed it. And so that's where their capital is. And so why wouldn't it be the same as it is around the rest of the world where your embassy is in the capital of that country? I mean, that's the truth, folks. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's not going to make a big difference in anything. There may be some crimes. I predict there's a possibility of a couple of terrorist attacks. Could be one here in the United States over the next week or so. Could be one there in Israel. I don't know, but they may use this as an excuse. They always find something to use as an excuse. Terrorist attacks are going to happen regardless. So if you get my book, Sheep No More, though, you'll be able to tell probably where exactly they're going to happen and avoid that. So those things are going to happen. They'll just use this as an excuse. So that's it. I mean, that's the reality of this. It's not really a big deal. It's a symbolic deal, but it's not really going to change anything at all. It may put our people a little bit more at risk that are over there. I don't know, maybe not. But, oh my goodness, this dog's killing me. Go sit down. So, again, as I switch to I really want to talk about the DNC's bad handling of sexual predators, but I also want to talk about Times Person of the Year. I may move that a little bit because we've got so many people watching right now. Let me just say this real quick. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure that you like my page and share this show. If you're following me on Periscope and on Twitter, make sure that you are following me on Twitter and that you retweet this. And on YouTube, let's see how many people we got on YouTube. It just never fails. 36. Wow, 36 people. We're up to like 10. We just never get that many people on YouTube. But so okay, here's what we're going to talk about next. Let me skip ahead a little bit, and I want to talk about Times Person of the Year, and then I'm going to go back and talk about the reality of the DNC and how they handle these sexual predators, because it's both issues are very sick. Let's go to the B block, and let's do that now. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. All right, so here's the thing. I'm looking at the news today, and I see that Time Magazine in their Person of the Year was given to the women who created the hashtag of, and somebody tell me what it was. For some reason, it's escaping my mind right now, probably because my leg's throbbing right now. Hashtag, come on, somebody tell me what it was. It's hashtag, I know Maureen knows what it is. Hold on one second here. Somebody will put it up here. I got my brain room working on it. Hashtag Me Too. Oh, yeah. Hashtag Me Too. Thank you. So that's who they gave this Time Magazine's Person of the Year. It's a group of women that came up with hashtag Me Too. And look, I'm not taking anything away from what they did, okay? They came out, and it's all about these sexual predators, and it's about these the women being strong enough and empowered enough to come out and say, yeah, this happened to me too. And I love that. I think that, I am constantly talking about the importance of empowering not only women in this country, but people, the whole citizenry. But here's where I have a problem. Time Magazine is so political because it's wrapped up with all the whole conglomerates of all these different groups. NBC, I don't even know the exact function of how NBC has something to do with Time Magazine, but it has to do with ownership and stuff like that. But forget about all that. Okay, forget about it. There's two, if they wanted to talk about, this is how you know that they're not really concerned with who made a difference when it comes to battling these sexual predators. Because the reality is, the women that came up with the hashtag Me Too, that was an afterthought after Gretchen Carlson did what she did, And you can say whatever you want about Gretchen Carlson, that yes, she collected a butt ton of money off of, and rightfully so, off of off of her lawsuit with Roger Ailes. But Gretchen Carlson did what nobody before her had done, at least publicly. Other people had issues, not just at Fox News. Don't think because you're a troll on here and you're stinky and you got a rich dad that you know everything, that you read books and that you watch YouTube videos, that you know everything about everything. You don't. It wasn't just Fox News. Look at Matt Lauer in 2008. The executives there, as we talked about yesterday, were joking about Matt Lauer's sexcapades at NBC, about having sex with all these women that work there. They were making jokes about it in a roast for Matt Lauer. You look at the Congress, and you look at how they have a slush fund of our taxpayer money to go and pay for all the women that are trying to file accusations of sexual misconduct. And so then they pay them off with our taxpayer money. That exists. So it wasn't just Fox News. Don't think that Fox was the only one with these problems, okay? It happens everywhere. Big companies, politicians, media. Basically, as I spent the whole show yesterday talking about, the executives in this country live by a separate set of rules and are judged by a different set of laws and policies that you and I would get hamstrung for, but they are able to get away with this stuff because they don't screw each other over, and they set the rules and regulations and the laws up so that they don't have to abide by them. Look, just like up until just recently, it wasn't illegal for members of Congress to do insider trading. That would put you in jail. Not them. Even now, I think they just get a letter of censure. So Gretchen Carlson took a stand, and because she didn't have to take it, right? And Gretchen, I don't know her that well. I've met her several times. Gretchen is a woman. She's a mature woman. She is an educated woman. She is somebody who takes pride in being a woman, but she's not a person that goes around flaunting herself as being a woman and trying to sleep her way to the top. She's not somebody that has put her sexuality out there so that people will judge her because of her looks first. She's always been known as somebody who's very beautiful. I think she's a Miss America, but she's also been looked upon as somebody who is very bright and intelligent, very educated, and has a strong opinion, an educated opinion. And I know that. I've been around her enough to know that that's who the woman really is. So she took a stand, and in an environment where other people just would not do this because they didn't want to risk their careers. And I get it. I understand that people get themselves into a career. They spend their lives trying to get into a career. They finally get to the pinnacle, and the pinnacle is not what they thought. That happens. Happened to me in the FBI. I spent my whole career trying to climb this ladder of learning this skill and learning that skill because I knew it would come together and help me be this investigator. It wasn't, FBI is not interested in that. So it was a slap in the face. And the same thing with people who climb any ladder. They get up there. It doesn't matter what job you're in. You could be the greatest doctor in the world, but if you work for a hospital that has a terrible administrator, you're going to have a horrible time. And they may be abusive and nasty to you, and it's going to be hard on you. And then you may have to go somewhere else and give up that part of that dream. This is always the possibility. Gretchen Carlson stood up to that. And then came along, brain room, help me out, Farrow, Ronan Farrow, Mia Farrow's son. And he came out, and out of all these people in Hollywood, Ronan stood up and said, I'm going to break this story. Now, I don't know anything about him. I've never read any of his stories. I don't know if he's a good journalist, a good writer, a great writer. I don't know. But what I do know about this guy is that he went and took the obvious that people were afraid to point out, and he said, here, this is what's going on. I'm not trying to belittle anybody when I say this. It was, in my mind, what Ronan Farrow did is very similar to what Martin Luther did when he went and nailed his letter on the door of the church when he had had enough, and that caused the Reformation. So Ronan Farrow, and the cojones that this guy has, along with Gretchen Carlson and the stance that she took, I think that what Gretchen Carlson did allowed Ronan Farrow to do what he did. I don't know if they've communicated, but from an investigative standpoint, I have to look at it, and I have to say that what she did cracked the door, or at least unlocked it, and then Ronan Farrow, like a great operator would do, or breacher, he went in and kicked that door wide open and said, I'm clearing the house. Those, to me, look, there's plenty of people that could have been Time Magazine's Person of the Year. You could have put, sometimes they put nefarious people up there. Sometimes they put people who've done great things. But I don't think this hashtag group of women that had the hashtag Me Too, my opinion is that was a political decision by Time. That was a decision based on something that NBC wanted. I don't understand it. But if I look at it from an investigative standpoint, I have to say that they're not that stupid that they missed the mark, that the reality of what hashtag Me Too was actually a reflexive action that came from the heroic actions of Gretchen Carlson and Ronan Farrow. And I think that when we look at Time Magazine and the way they do things, when we look at the Pulitzer Prize, for instance, and they gave Barack Obama a Pulitzer Prize, when we look at that Presidential Medal of Freedom, when you got all these celebrities getting it, you're not getting people who burnt their bodies up trying to rescue somebody that they don't know. You don't see, firemen that have given their lives and they get that posthumously. You don't see those people aren't the people that are getting that Presidential Medal of Freedom. They're giving that to, the producer of Saturday Night Live, or the Vice President, Joe Biden. The habitual sexual predator toucher of people. That award, the Pulitzer Prize, and Time Magazine's Person of the Year have taken on an aura of something that they're really not. Okay, it's just a political game that people play so they get themselves recognized. And also, when we look at NBC and we look at how closely they are related to Weinstein, when you look at how closely they're related to people like Matt Lauer and all the things they did, it also makes sense from a political standpoint on their part not to have Gretchen Carlson and Ronan Farrow, the two people who are the real warfighters in this, to stand for this. Instead, they chose the hashtag Me Too because it makes it look all like, oh, we're all now politically correct and we're all now, hashtag Me Too. We're all together in one big happy family. And it's just bullcrap. To me, it's nonsense. And I think what you're seeing when you look at all these different things, whether it be the Pulitzer Prize, Time Magazine's Person of the Year, or this weird thing, Presidential Medal of Freedom, that's got to be the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's all done for the purpose of, in the case of Time Magazine, sales. That's it. They're just doing that Person of the Year every year to spin people up so they get sales, advertising. That's all. And subscriptions. That's the only reason why they do it. They, when you look at the Nobel Peace Prize, that's just big, wealthy, rich people and globalists scratching each other's backs. And the same thing with this Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's just like a celebrity handshaking event. It goes on constantly up there. So anyway, that's my rant that I wanted to say about the Times Person of the Year. I think it's they missed the mark. Gretchen Carlson and Ronan Farrow were absolutely or have absolutely done what it it should have taken to be the person of the year if they wanted to go down that road and give it to the people who are responsible for all these women being empowered and coming out and standing up against oppression. Those are the two people. Those are the two brave people. They've done what it takes to stop this. And awards and recognition, real heroes don't seek that. And real heroes, their legacies, because of their actions, are the real reward that they wear around their neck, not Time Magazine. So it's not that big of a deal. But it does show you the ridiculousness of politics and media and the intertwining of these elitists, as I've been talking about all week. Let's go to the C block. And I want to talk real quick about the DNC and how they handled these sexual predators, and then we'll call it the night before my leg starts cramping up. Let's do it. All right, I got a little sip of bone broth there, my little chicken bone broth right there. Great numbers tonight. Sometimes we just have great numbers. If tonight's the first night you've watched this show, I want you to make sure that you like my my Twitter page, like my page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to my page on YouTube. And don't forget about my book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. You can order it right now. It'll be out next week. You can pre-order it, and it'll ship, and you'll get it on or around the 12th. And it's going to help you and your family learn how to... I had to give him a little swat down there. Learn how to identify, not just protect yourself. There's lots of books about protecting yourself. This is going to help you identify who and why they would attack you, when, where the attack would happen, and how or what kind of attack it would be for each sector of your life. What's a sector of your life? The mornings in your house, your commute to work, your job, your commute home, your house in the evenings, your house at night when everybody's asleep, where you go out to eat, the stadiums and arenas you go out to see your entertainment shows or your professional sports things, taking a trip across country, driving. All those things you can figure out who would attack you and why they would target you, where it would happen and when it would happen, and how the attack would be carried out. You can actually, you don't have to pay somebody to do that. You can figure that out yourself. And guess what, folks? You spend a little bit of time, take a couple rainy days, and you figure this out. You won't have to do it again and again. Every once in a while, if your life changes, if the tactics of nefarious people change, then you'll have to modify it a little bit. But overall, this book will help you define the standard operating procedures for each part of your life, so that you then just eliminate those areas. I'm not going to go here. You say to yourself after you're doing this, you say, I'm going to go see a Yankees game. So after doing this that the most likely place for an attack at a Yankees game is going to be directly at the end of the game outside the stadium, just like the Ariana Grande concert. So you just simply wait an extra 10 minutes in your seat, have a beer, relax inside the stadium, let everybody clear out, and then you go out the furthest away gate that you can, and then you go do your partying and hanging out. Or you leave early. That's the other thing. If the game's not that great, leave a little early, go to a bar, start drinking, and watch it there. You'll survive an attack, most likely, but you can identify those soft areas by utilizing the techniques in this book. Okay, let's talk real quick about the Democratic Party and how they're handling the sexual predators within the Democratic Party. I just heard this a minute ago, that Conyers, Senator Conyers, is now, he's now quitting. And he's wanting his son to take over for him. Well, his son was never charged, but was, let's see here. Let me pull this down here. He was never charged for it, but had a complaint about, where'd it go here? He had a complaint about domestic violence, I think is what it was. Conyers' son was accused of domestic abuse, but not charged, report says. So that in of itself is a big problem for me. Besides the fact, I don't believe in dynasties and political dynasties. So just because his father was in politics forever which is another sin that the American people keep committing. He should have been, I don't care if you're the greatest politician in the world, they should only be in there for a period of time. I believe that everybody should serve in Congress. We should do it like the Greeks did 2,000 years ago, where you're on a lottery system, and just like jury duty, your name gets called, you go serve 2 years in Congress. Why not do it like that, you know? And then I believe they should also teach jury duty in high school and in college. Should be mandatory classes to take so that you understand how to be a good juror and so on. I mean, there's ways that we can empower the people. I'm also in favor of mandatory service 2 years in the military. I know a lot of people don't like that, and they say that's conscription. But I think we've gotten to a point in this country where people have forgotten what earning your freedom and protecting your freedom is all about. So that's my opinion on that. But when we look at the DNC and how they handled Conyers, so the Black Caucus, which I can understand. I don't subscribe to all these to the color game in this country. Like I was listening to some guy who claims to be a white nationalist. He's a separatist. I don't care what the guy says. He's a white separatist, no different than somebody who's a black separatist. If you think that you have historically, or that you have, look, here's the deal with history and people of having certain color skin that did great things, right? Doesn't really matter. I know that in the past, people of certain color have been oppressed because of the color of their skin or because they come from a different part of the world. But everybody, every color, every religion, every sex has been enslaved at one point or another. So great people do great things, period. And for the first time in our lives and in history, we can now truly say that great people are able to do great things, and we just have to recognize that they're great. I don't understand why we have to recognize the color of their skin anymore. Why do we need to recognize white versus black? I don't see any difference. I've had people that I love dearly that have all colors of skin, that have all shapes of eyes, and are from all different places in the world. I love the person. You know, I don't really even take into consideration their physical attributes unless I'm dating them. And if we had a white caucus in the Congress, that'd be a problem, would it not? If we had an the National Coalition of the Advancement of White People, that would be a problem, would it not? You see, we've gotten to a point in this country where we should be advancing all people and empowering all people. And to say that if you're white, you have privilege, or if you're white, you're a racist, and that black people that have dark skin can't be racist, that's a lie. The fact is, this is the deal, folks. When I heard tonight that the Black Caucus, the Congressional Black Caucus, moved against Nancy Pelosi to get her to endorse Senator Conyers, is his name John, to endorse Senator Conyers, and stand with him and not against him when these allegations came out, that bothered me. But then when they got infuriated because more allegations came out, and she then turned around and said he needs to resign, they were furious because they wanted him to stay for the rest of this term and then retire in an honorable fashion, and basically because of the color of his skin. And we can't play double standards here, just like we can't hold all the men in this country accountable for treating women with respect if women aren't respecting men. You know, it doesn't go like the woman from Teen Vogue who was saying it doesn't really matter if men are falsely accused of sexual misconduct. Doesn't really matter in her mind, because the majority of the time it's real. So in her mind, it doesn't really matter. It's a numbers game. She's an idiot, and she doesn't know what she's talking about. Just like that, though, the same thing goes that if a person with light skin does something wrong and a person with black skin does something wrong, they should be punished equally. If a rich person does something wrong and a poor person does something wrong, they should be punished equally. If somebody who has who is Asian does something incredible, and somebody who is white or somebody who has dark skin does something incredible, they should all be rewarded equally, and they should be celebrated equally. See, that's true equality. Now, you're never going to have true equality in people, but in government, we can have true equality because the government should recognize all people. It should stop recognizing color as a way to differentiate between these people. You really, the reality is that one of the only true ways that we can differentiate between people is poverty. And it should be the government's quest to get people out of poverty and off of dependency. But they don't concentrate on that. That's not what they do. They just tend to utilize people for their own votes and put them on dependency. So getting back to this, I'm shocked at the way, I shouldn't say shocked, but it is shocking the way the left comes out against Roy Moore when the allegations, look, I'm still not fully convinced that Roy Moore didn't do something, all right? I don't like his answers. I don't like the way he still is responding about that's not in his character. It's either a yes or no. Did you or did you not do it? Not it's not in my character, okay? I can't stand those answers, and I don't trust them. However, how can I crucify Roy Moore if somebody like Al Franken, who had women come up and say again and again that he not only went out with them, which is what Roy Moore is being accused of going out with young girls, is with their parents' consent, by the way, which doesn't really mean, it's still weird. But Al Franken forcibly sticking his tongue in women's mouths, which is sexual assault. And telling the women, I can do that because I'm a comedian, which is, I guess, what he said. Now there's more women, and now people are finally calling for him to resign. But they weren't doing that. They treated him as though it was like, oh, he's just a comedian, and that's what they do. But Roy Moore, he should be going to the gallows to be hung. This double standard is absolutely crazy, and I think it's time that the American people start standing together, no matter what your color. Start standing together no matter what your sexuality or your gender, and we start saying that we are going to impose standards upon ourselves. If a woman was afraid 5 years ago or 2 years ago or 40 years ago, was afraid to come out and say something, first and foremost, don't get Gloria Allred as your attorney. Your credibility is ruined as far as I'm concerned. Secondly, you should stick by your guns. Once you decide to come out, you should stick by your guns. I think people like Gretchen Carlson and other women that have stood up should go and if they really want to do something greater than what they've done already, they should make a pact with other women. And when somebody like that comes out, they go down there, they meet with them, and they get to the bottom of it. I think Gretchen Carlson could probably, and other women that were her position, could probably meet with women like the accusers of Roy Moore or the accusers of Al Franken, sit down with them and see the reality of what's going on. They're going to know the reality. They're going to figure it out. And then the public can make their judgment call on that. But regardless of whether that works or not, the fact is we don't have anything right now. We're dependent on the media to give us the truth and to be the judge and jury, and that's crazy. You can't trust them to do anything. Why would you put somebody's future in that hand? But when we look at how the DNC handles it, by and large, the RNC, I shouldn't even say Republicans, I should say conservative people, are by and large, they judge people based on their character, whereas the DNC judges people based on whether or not they agree with them ideologically. And that's the problem. The DNC will rush out and crucify Roy Moore and take whatever the accusers say 100%, but yet when it comes to Al Franken, they'll say, I think what he was doing was being funny, and I think these women are taking it too seriously. Or they'll say, in the case of the Congressional Black Caucus, they'll say just because Conyers is black, that he's an icon. He's been in Congress for 30, 40 years, whatever it was, forever, which it shouldn't have been. They're going to say, oh, well, we shouldn't punish him. We should allow him to retire. Bullcrap. That's bullcrap. Because if you owned your own company, or if you were out on a park bench and did the same thing that John Conyers did, you'd go to jail for that. It's called indecent exposure. And these are all coming very close to sexual assault in a lot of cases. So these people should be held to a higher standard, not the standard of what the color of their skin is, not the standard of what their political ideology is. They should be held to a standard of their character and of their actions and behavior, period. And we must insist on that, people. We just gotten to a point in this country where it's just completely out of control how the people's, it's like watching sheepdogs herd a bunch of sheep. I want you to go left, so I'm going to push you left. You turn on CNN, and people who are liberal, they're told, you will be angry about this, and all of a sudden they're angry. You turn it over to Fox, and they're told, not necessarily, I know liberals and trolls hate Fox, but by and large, even though I do believe that Fox, pumps up the conservative side, of course they do. That's the conservative station. But I believe when they report the news, they stop before they give their except for, the shows like Sean Hannity and the shows in the evening where they have their opinion. When they report the news, Fox, One American News, Newsmax, they report the news and they stop short of giving their opinion. CNN and MSNBC and a lot of the big three, ABC, NBC, and CBS, they give their opinions in their news reporting. I'm not talking about the news shows. I'm not talking about the, what's that guy's name? Rachel Maddow. I'm not talking about the Rachel Maddow types. I'm talking, because she's an opinionated show. I'm talking about the news. Like Don Lemon comes on and tries to portray himself as a journalist and having a straightforward, fair and balanced show, but it's all opinionated and shifted to the left. Don Lemon is a hack, all right, and should go away. So that's it. All right, great show. I know I end these shows fast because when my leg starts cramping, I know it's time to start getting off here. Thank you all very much. Wednesday night, hump night. Now I guess I know Wednesday night's a big night. We got big numbers tonight. If you love this show, don't be afraid. Reach out to Fox News. Reach out to Sirius XM Patriot Channel. Tell these people you like this show. Just start talking about it online. Talk to each other. Hashtag Gillum. Hashtag CQRF. At @JGilliam_seal on Twitter. Jonathan T. Gillum on Facebook. Let the people know about this show and about the truth, about this book, about the GoFundMe page right there, right? We need to keep the funds up on this GoFundMe page. And this show will continue to grow and grow. The numbers are going to get bigger. Eventually, I'm going to get some monitors back here where we have a little bit cooler looking of a set where we can have people bigger. And so, I don't know, that's the dream of this set. But again, this is all self-made. This whole show has been put together and created and paid for by me and your donations for this reason. Because I was at all the different networks for so long. And I sat back, especially when I was a CNN contributor, and I watched the opinionated narratives and ideological-driven narratives shape the news. It's not the truth. It is the news. And you can, and I just got to a point where I said, I can't take it anymore. The technology is right. We can start this and we can do it right. And so you're a part of that, and continue to be a part of it if you help fund it, and if you help support me, support the truth, and support unity. We'll continue to move this thing forward. Let's go to the Truth Zone. Let's do it. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. That bone broth's a lot better when it's warm. Blech. I'm thinking about this. I know it's a little gross, but we think about this unbelievably intricately created world that we live in, right? I'm sitting here with a leg and a splint that I basically damn near destroyed 2 weeks ago. Doctors went in. They did this incredible suture thing where they go in and pull the tendon down, and they go through and make all these big sutures, and then they drill holes in my kneecap, reattach it to the kneecap, tie it in there, and they recreate the movement of the knee so that it can all grow back together. The heat that you can feel in this knee, the heat from my body, so intricately created but simple at the same time, created by God. I'm sitting here drinking the broth that comes from the boiled carcass of a chicken, and this helps my body with its inflammation. I don't know if you know that, but bone broth from chicken and beef help you with inflammation. How phenomenal is that? We sit here and I talk for an hour about behavior of human beings, about how easily human beings are swayed in their opinions and in their minds because they watch this glowing box with other human beings giving out opinions, and they're swayed. When people watch reality TV, quite often they turn the TV off. They feel like they've been on an adventure when they have not been on an adventure. They've been sitting on their couch or in their bed. It's like people think you got to drink sugar in order to have the effects of sugar in your body, but you don't. You can drink certain things that are sweet that don't have sugar in it at all, and your body will react the same way as if it did. That's why it's important when you diet to take these types of mental things into account. But this is what's fascinating about all this stuff. As intricately created as my leg is, as this chicken was, that I boiled the thighs and got the juices off of and fed Rico, and I drink this, it gives me energy to grow and heal and come to you and speak in front of you. The opinions that are slothed across the airwaves at us and the way that we believe these things. It's fascinating, folks, that with just a little bit of discovery and a little bit of effort, you will start to realize that what science tells you all the time, that this is some big bang thing, that it's all random, you'll start to see how ridiculous that sounds. With just a little bit of work, homework, and looking at different, not just what your mind says is correct, but looking at other news outlets and looking for the truth, you'd be surprised how things just pop out at you. By seeking out people that don't want to tell you what you want to hear, but people that are in the know, people with experience, with knowledge and understanding to get the truth from, what you're going to find out, folks, when you do that, is how unbelievably simple it is to have a simple life, to have a fun life, to understand the reality of what's going on in the world, to understand the person to your left and to your right, to understand what meaning means versus fulfilling desires. As always, it has to do with a personal commitment and then a commitment to unity. There's a reason why we're all here together on this planet. It's not just to be ourselves and individuals, it's to be unified. I'm Jonathan Gillum. That's Rico. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.